Greetings from the wasteland, and welcome once again to our weekly peek at new releases headed toward an independent record store near you. Hopefully. Again, because of things like production delays, shipping problems, and the like, we can't guarantee that these releases will all make it in time for their scheduled release date. In fact, some of the ones I saw on this coming week's list were from previous weeks that had been delayed. I won't mention those again, but check with your local record store for availability. Now, if you see something you like in this list for Friday, July 22nd, please let us know here at the store. Our orders go in on Sunday nights, and that's your best chance to get a hold of something, we hope, is by letting us know or letting your local record store know that you're looking for something in particular. So without any further ado, here is a look at the releases, the highlights rather, for Friday, July 22nd. Starting off with a big one here in the Michigan area at the very least. This is a new one from Jack White. It's called Entering Heaven Alive. Entering Heaven Alive is the 5th studio album from Jack White and his second this year. Again, Jack White, if you don't know, is a founding member of the White Stripes, the Raconteurs, the Dead Weather, etc., as well as a record pressing entrepreneur himself. So true to his DIY roots, this record was recorded at White's Third Man Studio throughout 2021, mastered by Third Man Mastering, and released, of course, by Third Man Records. There is a black vinyl version and an indie exclusive, what's being called denim. It's kind of a bluish vinyl version of Entering Heaven Alive, and they'll list for around $25. Brand new stuff also from the Kooks. This one's called 10 Tracks to Echo in the Dark. This is the Kooks' 6th studio album, and 10 Tracks to Echo in the Dark, according to our description, is a fresh-sounding, electronic-tinged evolution of their iconic sound. Looks like this is coming on both a black vinyl version and an indie-exclusive clear vinyl version. That indie-exclusive listing for around $30, and the black vinyl version looks like it's going to be around $27. Lots of big stuff on the reissue front for the week of Friday, the 22nd of July. Kicking them off with a whole slate, and I mean a whole slate, of Motley Crue reissues. We mentioned this last week. It's hard to find these things really even all at once on the reissue. They tend to sell out very, very quickly. So if you're looking for them, get your order in as quickly as possible. But coming from Motley Crue for the week of the 22nd, we have got reissues of Dr. Feelgood, Girls, 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 Too Fast for Love, Theater of Pain, and of course, Shout at the Devil. All of these are going to be on black vinyl, and they will all list for around $27. Now, speaking as a record store owner and seeing how new releases have been going a lot lately, I find it risky that the band is releasing, or the label rather, is releasing all of these at one time. The risk of maybe having one not show up is very great, and then you'll have disappointed fans who hope to pick them all up at once. So we'll see how this goes. It's looking good, like most of these are going to be in stock. However, we did find out that of all of them, Dr. Feelgood, which tends to be a difficult one to find anyway, is going to be a little bit more limited and or rationed, at least to the distributors and possibly to some of the smaller stores. So end result, it looks good for most of these Motley Crue releases, but Dr. Feelgood could be delayed. We'll just have to kind of stay tuned and see what happens there. From Cleopatra Records, we also have a reissue from Danzig. This is 666, Satan's Child. This is coming on red marbled vinyl, as we'd mentioned from Cleopatra. One of the most anticipated reissues of the year, according to our description. The 1999 dark masterpiece from metal gods of the underworld, Danzig. This album has some of Danzig's heaviest and most profound songs, including 13, which was written and recorded by Johnny Cash in 1994 and used as the opening song for the 2009 film The Hangover. Our description goes on to say this is beautifully restored artwork from the British comic book artist and longtime metal illustrator Simon Bisley. Limited edition red marbled vinyl in a gatefold jacket with a full-color inner sleeve. Danzig's 666 Satan's Child will list for around $30. Another hard rock heavy metal one that, man, this group seems like it's tough to get a hold of when they release these reissues. This is Slipknot 5, the Gray Chapter. So Chapter 5, the Gray Chapter, coming on pink vinyl. Limited edition pressing. 5, the Gray Chapter is the 5th studio album by heavy metal band Slipknot, originally released in 2014. This one looks like it's going to list for around $30. And again, a lot of these Slipknot reissues of late have been going directly into back order and I think they've had some trouble filling them. We've at least had trouble getting them here at the store, so we'll just have to see what happens with 5, the Gray Chapter. Next up on the reissue slate is a fun one, although admittedly, if you get this, you're probably buying it for one song and one song only, the band's biggest hit. But this is a reissue from House of Pain, and the album is Fine Malt Lyrics. Now, this version celebrates 30 years of the label Tommy Boy Records. It's been remastered and, of course, includes the song Jump. Now, there is a black vinyl version of this that will list for about $34, $35, but there's also an indie exclusive with possibly one of the coolest add-ons that we've seen in an indie exclusive release, and this is coming with a House of Pain jump rope. And of course, that's so you can jump the rope while you're jumping around to House of Pain. The indie exclusive is coming on orange and white vinyl double LP. Looks like it's an expanded edition and comes with that House of Pain jump rope. This package looks like it's going to be listing for about $55. There's a reissue coming also from Jason Mraz. This is Mr. A-Z or Mr. A to Z, depending upon how you read it. It's a double LP pressing, a deluxe edition of his acclaimed Grammy-nominated sophomore album. Mr. A-Z is the most definitive album to date, according to our description. This pressing includes 4 previously unreleased instrumental tracks available for the first time ever on vinyl. The Jason Mraz Mr. A to Z Deluxe Edition will list for about $35. Some New York punk / alt / glam rock also on the reissue front, coming from the New York Dolls. This is Red Patent Leather, recorded in 1975 from the Little Hippodrome in New York City. These are the last recorded shows from the classic lineup of the New York Dolls. Our description says that this is a one-time pressing of the original red color vinyl. This cult classic was a French import only before. Deluxe packaging includes an OBI strip, single jacket with one pocket, printed inner sleeve, and as we mentioned, the original red color vinyl with the original record labels. So the reissue of Red Patent Leather from the New York Dolls on red vinyl will list for about $27. 2 from the Vault from the Grateful Dead, also coming out on Friday the 22nd. Our description says that for the first time ever on vinyl, this limited quadruple LP pressing and a gatefold sleeve will follow up on the heels of Light in the Attic's vinyl pressing of 1 from the Vault. So these releases are distinguished from the more abundant and more readily available Dick's Picks series in that Dick's Picks are direct from the soundboard, while the From the Vault series, which is this one, were professionally recorded on multi-track tape and then mixed down decades later for this release. This Grateful Dead release was recorded at the Shrine Auditorium in Los Angeles in 1968. It was remastered in 2014 and is now available in this 4-disc box set. List price a little hefty, coming in at around $101 for the Grateful Dead's 2 from the Vault. I think we've seen this reissue a couple of times before, but this looks to be a fresh pressing of Fleetwood Mac's Madison Blues. Our description is a little slim on this, but I do believe that this is a triple LP release, and it looks to be listing at around $60. From Culture Factory, we've got a colored vinyl release from the Buckinghams and their big album, Kind of a Drag. It is a yellow and gold smoke colored vinyl from the 1967 debut album from the American pop rock outfit. Again, Kind of a Drag from the Buckinghams on yellowish gold vinyl, listing at $27. There are a couple of Music on Vinyl releases headed our way, hopefully for the 22nd. Now again, Music on Vinyl tends to be a little delayed for some stores, especially smaller ones like ours, but hopefully we're looking for something from Sponge and a reissue of Rotting Pinata. Sponge, of course, a great Detroit rock and roll band. This particular MOV release, by the way, is going to be strictly limited, coming in at just 1,500 copies, and each will be individually numbered. And this looks to be on orange, or what they're calling flaming orange vinyl. And of course, this is going to have some of their biggest hits, including Plowed and Molly, aka 16 Candles, which are both from their 1994 debut album, Rotting Pinata. So look for that. Music on Vinyl, hopefully on the 22nd. A little thick because it is Music on Vinyl, listing for around $42. And the other Music on Vinyl reissue coming for this coming Friday, another Michigan artist. This is Ted Nugent's reissue of Free for All, coming on limited edition 180-gram translucent blue vinyl. And this one is also going to be tremendously limited. According to our description, it's just 1,000 copies, individually numbered, and as we mentioned, on 180-gram translucent blue vinyl. And the Music on Vinyl reissue of Nugent's Free for All, also a little bit hefty on the price tag side, listing at $43. And we do have a few albums of older music made new in kind of either compilations or recuts or soundtracks. Leading off with Iggy and the Stooges, this is Scene of the Crime. This one coming from Cleopatra Records. It's a digitally remastered collection of rare studio recordings from the punk icons Iggy Pop and the Stooges, recorded around the same time as the band released their seminal album Raw Power. So again, Scene of the Crime by Iggy and the Stooges. This one coming on red marbled vinyl and will list for about $30. And again, this is a digitally remastered, probably studio outtakes. Our description doesn't go too far into it. It just says rare studio recording, so it's probably some different versions of these songs. There's a Netflix series out there about ZZ Top called Raw, that little old band from Texas. And the soundtrack to that, Doc, is coming out on Friday. And of course, this is called Raw, that little old band from Texas. So this kind of works out to be a greatest hits album of sorts because it's following the music from that documentary. So it's got a lot of their older blues stuff as well as some of their newer stuff, including Gimme All Your Lovin'. Of course, they're going to put their biggest hit on there. But Raw, that little old band from Texas from ZZ Top, will list at around $27. And we've got a few tribute albums to wrap up our look at the highlights of the week. This one's a neat one because it's a single artist doing a tribute to Brian Wilson. And this is She and Him, and the album is called Melt Away, a tribute to Brian Wilson. This is She and Him's 7th studio album, and they call it a loving tribute to one of the greatest living American singer-songwriters. A total of 14 cuts on this album, and it will list for around $25. That is for the black vinyl version, and according to our description, there's also an indie exclusive clear vinyl version of Melt Away, and that one looks like it's going to list for about $26. The tributes keep on a-rockin' along with the house. This one's called House Is Rockin', a tribute to Stevie Ray Vaughan by various artists. This one coming from Cleopatra and Deadline Music. Our description says some of the world's hottest blues and rock guitarists let loose on this tribute to the late great king of blues himself, Stevie Ray Vaughan. Featuring performances by Steve Morris, Albert Lee, Walter Trout, Trevor Rabin, Steve Stevens, and many others. Appearing on vinyl for the very first time, this release includes new versions of some of Vaughan's biggest hits like Pride and Joy, The House is a Rockin', Empty Arms, and many, many more. Coming on kind of a gold splattered vinyl, this one looks like it's going to list for about $33. There's also a tribute called Spacewalk, a tribute to Ace Frehley on purple vinyl, coming again from Deadline Music and Cleopatra. A space-tacular salute, that's our description, folks, not me. A space-tacular salute to the legendary Kiss axeman Ace Frehley, as performed by the legions of rock stars that he had inspired. Performances included from metal giants Dimebag Darrell, so this is obviously some older recordings, Jeff Watson, plus members of Megadeth, Anthrax, LA Guns, Skid Row, and more. First ever time being pressed on vinyl for this collection, and as we mentioned, it's coming on purple vinyl and will list for about $27. And wrapping up this week, we've got kind of an oddity. This really isn't so much music. I believe that this is akin to an old radio drama. This is called Sensorites, a Sense Sphere marbled-colored vinyl from Doctor Who. Our description says that this is a limited triple vinyl, again, Sense Sphere marbled-colored vinyl LP pressing in individual pockets, which, when placed in order, reveal a double-sided composite illustration. So you've got to put all of the inner sleeves together, if I am reading that correctly. Our description goes on to say that Demon Records presents a narrated TV soundtrack from the very first series of Doctor Who, starring William Hartnell as the Doctor. So again, I believe that there is probably some music in the background in this from the BBC Radiophonic Workshop, but primarily this is going to play out, as I mentioned, as a radio drama. But it's a very cool presentation with the layered art prints, and it says it also includes an embossed frameable art print, and I think we can see what that might look like on there. But again, this is a very cool looking package. The Doctor Who Sensorites on 140-gram vinyl lists very heavy, coming in at $112. So that is a quick look at the highlights for the releases for Friday, July 22nd. As always, if you see something you'd like us to try to get a hold of, shoot us a message here at the store and we will do our best. Now, again, I got to stress that because of things like production delays, shipping problems, not all of these could make it to the stores in time for that Friday release, but as everything else in this world, we're doing our best to make sure that they do. We'll talk to you folks next time from the Wasteland. Please don't forget to hit that subscribe button and have a great one.